Welcome back, Howlighters, and if you don't know who I am, my name is Hallie, and this video is going to be how I brush out my spoolies and get my set. So the thing that I learned kind of the hard way with the spoolies is that they have to be unraveled kind of gently, because if not, you'll pull your hair really bad. So when you're doing it, you want to find the direction and then unwrap them. And then if there's pieces of hair that are caught, you pull from underneath. And then everything pretty much should come out. The ones on the bottom for me always get caught the most because that's where I move more than anything. So if I can see it, there we go. Usually, and this happens with the brush too, there's always just one strand that's wrapped the opposite direction. So if you just remove that, you'll usually be able to remove it without pulling out all your hair. And you can also just like unwrap it around your finger. So for ones that I can't see, I do that. All right, so all my spoolies are out. So I'm gonna kind of shake it up a little bit. You can see the curls are fairly tight, but they are a little bit more relaxed than what I would do if I had a foam roller. I'm gonna take my pomade. This is the Suavecita that I like to use. I'm gonna put just a little bit on the back of my knuckle. Seal it up because I've been really bad about leaving my cap off of it. Emulsify it really well. And then kind of starting at the bottoms, I'm going to just comb it through. I'm not really worried about the top right now. I'll get to that when I'm more ready for that. So I just kind of leave that alone. So once I feel that it's on the hair, I'm going to start my brushing. So I'm going to use this brush first. This is kind of just like a knockoff Mason Pearson. It's one of those. And if anything gets snagged when I'm pulling it, I'm going to then go to the bottom and then brush up. And if there's a knot, I'm going to just kind of pull it apart. The reason why I use this brush to start is so that way any lot of body or product that's in it gets completely broken up. This brush is just fuzzier. So that helps with that, because right now I'm not really necessarily looking for smoothness or anything, or it to be really controlled. I more or less just want all the product to be moved around so nothing's wadded together. Now with the spoolies, I don't tend to flip my hair over and brush it out, but you could. That's what I do with foam rollers. I don't want it super fluffy, so that's why I don't do that. I'm moving this off and I'm going to put it up through the top because that's another place that I'm going to build some height from. So just kind of clipping it out of my way. I'm going to resume brushing. And now that I'm starting to get my length back, I'm going to swap into my Dunman. It's a lot of tools, it's a lot of different things, but this is just the easiest way I found for it. And now from here, I'm going to start doing some more shaping, and then I'll go back through with another brush and then probably a comb. So it's a lot of brushing, just a lot of brushing. And that's pretty much all it is. It's just once you get your set in, brushing it out and sculpting it to the shape that you want. And then from the bottoms, I'm going to just kind of wrap it around my hand and start sculpting that. So once everything's starting to feel more polished, I either swap into one of two things. I prefer a comb, but sometimes I use a teasing brush too. It just depends. I'm gonna try it with the comb, and if it's too tight, there's too much tension with it, I'll swap into the teasing brush. So it just depends on how I'm feeling about it. But I think the comb's gonna be fine, because really now what I'm trying to do is pull the shape down a little bit. I'm using the wide portion of the comb. And I have my clips on my sleeve, so if I wanted to, now would be the time that I would start kind of placing my clips in, just holding everything in that position. I don't use clips a lot, I just don't. The back of your head is always tricky. It doesn't really matter, especially if your hair is getting long like mine is. You guys a little bit what the back is starting to look like. And then from there, I'm just going to keep on brushing more. Now it's looking kind of like it's getting slightly frizzy. So I'm just going to take a little bit more pomade and apply it before I start brushing some more. So again, just a little bit, back of hand, smooth it out on top. And then I'm going to keep brushing or combing, depending on what verbiage you want to use. So if I really want to bring in my length some more, this is where I'm going to use my clips. And I'm going to feel for where kind of that horseshoe part starts to go in. And I'm going to apply my clip in through there. So that way it keeps pulling that tension down. It's just a different type of style. It depends on what you're going for. But I don't necessarily like all my waves all the way up. If I do that, then I usually go more to a foam roller. So my inspiration is more Rita and less Marilyn, if that makes sense. And then now that I have that tension down and something assisting that, I'm going to use them as kind of an anchor. Kind of rolling as I'm going. So the comb was giving me just a little too much tension, so I've decided to swap into my teasing brush. Now you could have started with this, it just depends. Sometimes my hair cooperates just fine with the comb, other time it doesn't. So that's why I just kind of mixed it up. So with this, I'm going to just start lightly smoothing everything out. And a lot of this is just almost by feel until I think that it feels about right. And then from there, I go and check and look in the back. Like, I don't like this nonsense. And I'm going to wrap it around my hand. Going to make sure those ends are nice and pretty. I'm going to take it and I'm going to kind of just let it bounce back. and then keep brushing it together. So you guys keep asking me, like, what do you do when it's poofy and it's this and it's that? It's really just a ton of brushing, and anyone in the community will tell you that, like, to get the look, you're just brushing. Had to go check, but I think the back is about where I want it. So I'll show you guys. So I've got my pretty good horseshoe shape, my waves at the bottom. Looks fairly polished. So I'm just gonna give it a really light spray. This is just the Suavecito Firm Hairspray. I'm going to take my can, just kind of lay that down. Really just focusing on the back because I still have to join everything together in the front. And I don't want too much hairspray because if I do decide to go back and brush through something, I don't want to get stuck. So now I'm going to work on the front portion. So for this look, I just want it to kind of curl towards my face. So I'm just going to start sculpting it to do that. Once everything starts to kind of brush more smoothly together, now I'm going to drop this hair so I can add everything into it. So I'm just going to take my comb, start from the bottoms, and just kind of comb everything out at first. I'm going to take a little bit more pomade because the bangs didn't really get any. Then I'm going to tease just this top section. So remember, when you're teasing, you want to go in kind of like a C and do a whisk, not up and down, but more like that. And then I'll comb these two together. Bring everything together and lock it down. Woohoo! Now I'm going to take back to this one and just kind of smooth a little bit. Put my hand here. Now to make sure that I'm not brushing too much out, I'm going to swap back into this. And because my hair is fine, I know there's going to be some gaps in it. I hate it, but it's just the way it is. And I lost a lot with my surgery. And I'm just going to kind of tuck everything back down and smooth it out. So this part isn't cooperating, so it's gonna go back because every time I try to pull it forward, it just says nah. So instead of fighting with it and fighting with your set for that long, I'm just going to now just shape it into where it wants to go. Excuse you. And then for a little bit more detail work, I'm going to bring in my comb again. And I'm going to keep brushing it until it resembles something of a shape I want. And I think that's good enough. Here's the back so you guys can see. It's got some pretty good swing in it. So it moves a little bit more, feels more like hair. If I wanted to, I could take some finishing sprays and just kind of mist it. Remember, when you're using hairspray, you're setting your hair, not killing cockroaches. So nothing super close. And hairspray won't work until it dries. So if you want it in a certain place, spray it and hold it there before you let it go. Give it about 5 to 10 seconds. And keep in mind too, you're sculpting hair, not clay. So perfection isn't necessarily what you're going for. You have to sometimes amend that perception to make sure that you're just making your hair look as good as possible. So kind of take those things out of the equation. Be nice to yourself. Be patient. This also takes a lot of time. A lot of times when I'm going to work, I'll just brush it out, fluffy curls, out the door I go. This would be more like a night out, or maybe for Viva, I want to show off my length. And this is also why I love spoolies versus the foam rollers. I love foam rollers too, just 2 different techniques. So hopefully this kind of showed you guys the difference and kind of the whole methods of brush outs. And as always, if you have more questions or comments for me, you can leave them here or on my TikTok, and then I will do my best to find them and then do my best to answer them.